Hey everyone, Patrick CK here with my review of the ASUS RT-ACRH13 Dual Band Gigabit Wi-Fi router. Now, to be honest, getting a new router has been a long time coming, as I've been using the same Linksys Wireless G Wi-Fi router for at least a decade. Unfortunately, these ancient routers are still very prevalent in the consumer and commercial worlds. Obviously, there are a lot of things wrong with using such an old piece of equipment. Upmost, of course, is speed. The max transfer speed on the Linksys is 64 megabits per second, which is what I thought the cap on my bandwidth was anyway from my ISP Comcast. Boy, was I wrong. More on that later. I chose the ASUS AC1300 for several reasons. Of course, it has the latest wireless AC technology, such as Mu-mimo, which provides the ability to switch between both 2.4 and 5 GHz frequencies from multiple clients that support it, so you get consistent connections all the time. A 2x2 5 dBi antenna setup for extended Wi-Fi range, a host of improved security features, a great web and app interface to manage the network, and 4 gigabit speed Ethernet ports with one USB 3.0 network connection for something like a NAS, which was a really nice add and one of the deciding factors between this router and the $10 cheaper AC1200, which only has a USB 2.0 port. I picked up this router on Amazon for $69.99 plus $4 in tax. I would have purchased it tax-free on Newegg, but for some reason I couldn't find it anywhere on their site. Looking over the physical router, it has an interesting reflective pattern design on top that I like, and thankfully it's not a horrible glossy surface. We can see two of the four antennas, which itself has a nice subtle modern design with angled surfaces. On the front is a single USB 3.0 connection. I'll be interested in seeing how well this actually works. Around back are the other two antennas, power button, reset button, power port, and all the other network connections. Let's lay out the antennas and see what else is in the box. A short and beefier than normal network cable for the WAN port, and lastly the wall wart of typical size but definitely smaller than the one it replaced. Setting the router up was a breeze. Just follow the 3-step instructions and you should be good to go. Once all the lights came on, my computer automatically popped up the router setup screen where it prompts you to change the password for the router and the Wi-Fi. And that's pretty much it. I would suggest making the management login screen a bookmark for easy access in the future. Before I delved into any of the numerous settings, I wanted to run some speed tests. First on the wired Ethernet side of the network, and then the wireless side. When I started running the speedtest.net app, I almost fell out of my chair. With my old router, I maxed out at around 40 megabits per second down, which again I thought was very reasonable and my max bandwidth allotment anyway, but instead went all the way to 91. More than double the old speed, and I didn't even know I was allowed speeds that high. Downloading a game on Steam, I'm getting a consistent 13 megabytes a second download speeds. I was lucky to get close to 5 before. I was able to download an 8.5 gig game in just 10 minutes. Where was this speed my whole life? I mean, I knew newer equipment would make a difference, but not that much. Just to be clear, your experience may vary depending on your ISP's bandwidth cap. So as far as the wired side of the network goes, the ASUS AC1300 has proved its worth more than twofold. I was even a little upset that I've been throwing my money away every month not using the full bandwidth potential supplied to me. I wouldn't even have known without this new router. But let's move on and see how the Wi-Fi has improved. For comparison, my HTC One M8, I was getting on average 20 megabits per second down in the next room from my old router. But now I'm getting the full speed equivalent to the wired computer at around 90 megabits per second on the 5 GHz band, which is the fastest and which the M8 supports. Again, not all phones, even newer ones, support the higher frequencies or can utilize Mu-mimo features. While signal strength dropped off fairly quickly from one side of my modest home where the router is to the other, the speeds were still way better than before by at least twofold. Looking at my crude signal strength map, you can see the bottom floor of my house where my router is has the best coverage, from the strongest point being right next to the router at negative 25 dBm to the den, which is still well in the green. I took these readings using an awesome free app called the Wi-Fi Analyzer. Even around the outside in the garage, I have a good enough signal to watch YouTube or Netflix. Not sure why you would in the garage, but to each his own. On the second floor, even though the dining room is directly above the router, I lost some signal strength, but not enough to make any meaningful impact. And even all the way on the other side of the house in the master bedroom, I could get 50 megabits down, even with a quarter of the original strength. I imagine if you were able to actually centrally locate your router, you would never have signal problems again unless you had a massive mansion or something. Sitting back down and checking out ASUS's Network Manager interface, you get a very easy to navigate GUI with access to pretty much all the settings, which is good if you're a tinkerer or just a parent looking to set up the parental controls. For me, everything seems to work out of the box. One feature I was really interested in was the USB 3.0 network connection. To test this, I plugged in a 16 gig thumb drive. Unfortunately, all I had was a USB 2.0 drive, so testing transfer speeds would be pointless. It was automatically detected by the router and showed up in the management interface immediately. What's great is without fiddling around with any router settings, the drive appeared as another computer on the network, where you have access to all the files as if it were attached directly to your computer. This is a great option for something like a NAS or any USB storage device that you want to back up to from multiple computers in the house. Someday I'll get or build a real NAS and test the transfer speeds, but being USB 3.0, the max will be roughly around 5 gigabits per second before overhead and bottlenecks. Of course, you may have to change some of your computer's network and share settings in order to discover your home network and see any attached devices like the thumb drive I used. Now, in conclusion, if you need a new router, be it for better Wi-Fi speed, better management interface, a network attached USB port, or any other reason, I would definitely check out the ASUS AC1300. For me, upgrading from an almost decade-old router was more than worth it. Alright, this has been Patrick CK. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed this content. Check out some of my other videos. Expect new videos every week, and hope to see you all next time. Thanks, everyone.